Hello and welcome to another Beyond Shakespeare exploring session. We're exploring this is the fifth exploring session for the play The Alchemist. We're currently in Act 5, so it's the big unravel of everything we've been looking at. What's happened so far? Well, you can go and watch the previous videos if you. I mean, it would be weird if you landed on Act 5 and you've not sort of watched the previous one. Though I have done that before. Anyway, and because we're a bit short of readers today, we are going to be dealing with some extreme doubling, so we apologize in advance. And basically, what's happened immediately before this is that our three con artists are seeing their plots nearly collide, but they haven't quite. They've managed to keep them separate. But then the biggest problem is that the master, Lovewit, is about to return. So they have to clear the space. They have to, presumably they're running around doing things. And Face also asked Subtle to shave him and not kill him, just a little trim, not a full cut. So yeah, that's what happened thus far. Without further ado, I should introduce our readers. Reading thus far, Lovewit and Dull, we have
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Face, Mammon, there's a couple of neighbours, and probably some other people as well. We have
Lois in London.
And reading Subtle, a second neighbor, and loads of basically some neighbors, and then Ananias and Surly. We have coughing quite.
This is badly timed. Hi, my name is Lynn. I live in the Northwestern United States.
And I'm Eric. I'll be your host for today. Chaotic as usual. I will be reading pretty much everything else and trying to keep this going without further ado, I hope. Do I need to quack myself? I don't know. Anyway, so Act 5, Scene 1, enter Lovewit with several of the neighbours.
Has there been such resorts, say you?
Daily, sir.
And nightly, too.
Aye, some braves lords.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Citizens' wives.
And knights.
In coaches.
Yes, and oyster women?
Beside other gallants.
Sailors' wives.
Tobacco men.
Another Pimlico?
Should my knave advance to draw this company? He hung out no banners of a strange carp with 5 legs to be seen, or a huge lobster with 6 claws.
No, sir.
We had gone in then, sir.
He has no gift of teaching in the nose that I knew of. You saw no bills set up that promised cure of agues or the toothache?
No such thing.
Nor heard a drum struck for baboons or puppets?
Neither, sir.
What device should he bring forth now? I love a teeming wit as I love my nourishment. Pray God he have not kept such open house that he hath sold my hangings and my bedding. I left him nothing else. If he have ate them, a plague of the moss, that say I. Sure, he's got some bawdy pictures to call all this ging. The fire and the nun, or the nude motion of the knight's corsair covering the parson's mare. But maybe he has the fleas that run at tilt upon a table, or some dog to dance. When saw you him?
Who, sir? Jeremy?
Jeremy, the butler. We saw him not this month.
How?
Not these 5 weeks, sir.
These 6
weeks, at least.
You amaze me, neighbours.
Sure, if your worship know not where he is, he slipped away.
Pray God he be not made away.
Ha! 'Tis no time to question then.
He knocks at the door.
About some 3 weeks since, I heard a doleful cry as I sat up mending my wife's stockings.
'Tis strange that none will answer. Did thou hear a cry, sayest thou?
Yes, sir, like unto a man that had been strangled an hour and could not speak.
I heard it too, just this day 3 weeks at 2 o'clock next morning.
These be miracles, or you make them so. A man an hour strangled and could not speak, and both you heard him cry?
Yes, downward, sir. Love, thou art.
That
oh,
love
wait.
is Lovewit,
Love,
isn't it?
yeah, love is Lovewit.
Thou art a wise fellow. Give me thy hand, I pray thee. What trade art thou on?
A smith, and it please your worship.
The smith. Then lend me thy help to get this door open.
That will I presently, sure, but fetch my tools and exit the 3 neighbours to fetch his tools. I think we should run this scene together because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
Act 5, scene 2.
Yeah, it's totally continuous. Sir, best to knock again afore you break it.
I will.
Enter Face in his butler's livery.
What mean you, sir?
There's
Oh,
Jeremy.
here's Jeremy. Good sir, come from the door.
Why, what's the matter?
Yeah, farther, you're too near yet.
In the name of wonder, what means the fella?
The house, sir, has been visited.
What, with the plague? Stand there then, father.
No, sir, I had it not.
Who had it then? I left none else but thee in the house.
Yes, sir. My fellow, the cat that kept the buttery, had it on her a week before I spied it, but I got her conveyed away in the night, and so I shut the house up for a month.
How?
Purposing then, sir, to have burnt rose vinegar, treacle, and tar, and have made it sweet that you should never have known it, because I knew the news would but afflict you, sir.
Read less and farther off. This is stranger. The neighbours tell me here all the doors have still been open.
How, sir?
Gallants, men and women, and of all sorts. Ragtag. Been seen to flock here in threaves these 10 weeks as to a second Hoxton. Days of Pimlico and Eyebright.
Oh, sir, their wisdoms will not say so.
Today they speak of coaches and gallants. One in a French hood went in, they tell me, and another was seen in a velvet gown at the window. Divers more pass in and out.
They did pass through the doors then, or walls, I assure their eyesights and their spectacles, for here, sir, are the keys, and here have been in this my pocket now above 20 days, and for before I kept the fort alone there. But that 'tis not yet deep in the afternoon. I should believe my neighbours had seen double through the black pot, and made these apparitions. For on my faith to your worship, for these 3 weeks and upwards, the door has not been opened.
Strange.
Faith, I think I saw a coach.
And I too, I'd have been sworn.
Do you but think it now? And but one coach?
We cannot tell, sir. Jeremy is a very honest fellow. Did you see me at all?
Nah, that we're sure on.
Oh, I'll be sworn of that.
Fine rogues have your testimonies built on.
Enter the 3rd neighbour with his tools. Is Jeremy come?
Oh, yes. You may leave your tools. We were deceived, he says.
He has had the keys and the door has been shut these 3 weeks.
Like enough.
Peace. Get hence, you changelings.
Enter Shirley and Mammon.
Surly come, and Mammon made acquainted. They'll tell all. How shall I bear them off? What shall I do? Nothing's more wretched than a guilty conscience.
I kind of want to pause here, but also want to run it off because it's like all the chaos of people coming in. Yeah, but basically what we've had is, I think it was set up in the last what's it called, last scene of the previous act 4, where we had Face and Doll and Subtle being alarmed to see that the neighbors are welcoming Lovewit, and you can't trust the neighbors. You can never trust the neighbors to tell you the truth, or
Well, they are
I'm assuming that's what he means by get hence you changelings. Like, clearly you've not been seeing correctly.
Well, I mean, they're changing because they're already doubting their own story. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that Face must be a really convincing liar, because a moment ago the neighbors were like, yeah, people come and go at all hours all the time. They're like, I don't know, he says we're wrong. I
I don't know.
Yes, we didn't see all those things. Yeah.
Well, it
guess
is
there's maybe only one coach at the most. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the literal meaning of changeling, of course, is a stupid person, the sort of child that the fairies left and when they took away your child. But in this context and that of the play called The Changeling, it tends to mean somebody who changes, which they certainly have done.
Well,
Yeah.
also it's that thing of like not confirmation bias, what's it called? Like sort of when you play with someone's memory of an event, like, oh, was he wearing green or was he wearing red? Or sort of you can. It's very easy to deceive them if they're not entirely sure, especially if they're talking about things that are happening in the night. I can't imagine they had very good visibility back then. I mean, even if you want to go that far, otherwise they're just stupid and they're doubting their own words. I do like how he gives Jonson gives the third neighbor enough sort of a characteristic or a character that he personality that he goes off to fetch his tools because he's a blacksmith and he can break through the door.
Yeah. I love that line about I heard a doleful cry as I sat up mending my wife's stockings. I mean, that's got nothing to do with anything. It's just a funny detail.
Yeah.
It is quite a lot of detail though. It's like sort of, and I do like how Lovewit is basically like, you had COVID.
Yep. Oh yeah, that line.
Cat had COVID, and yeah, like
that line, breathe less.
Breathe less.
I know, that really made me think that sounds like modern times. Breathe less and farther off.
Of course, we're laughing about this now. I mean, both COVID and the plague back then killed several people, so it's kind of you can kind of see why he would be worried about it. I do like this sort of a different type of noise created to the previous type of noise, because you had the chaos from before where they were trying to shuffle around the marks, and Face and Subtle were in control more or less, whereas now Face is like trying to play them. So and Surly returns. So
everybody returns. Yeah, and the reason Lovewood is back is that he's been reading the mortality bills, which come out every week, telling how many have died, and they have a bit of an argument about that in the previous act about whether he was going to come back when there were fewer than so many deaths. And it was a question of whether it was in the suburbs or the Liberties, I think. In other words, kind of, is it in Greater London or just in the center of London, or, what exactly? And they got it wrong, apparently. So anyway, here he is. So he didn't have to hear from them. He could just see for himself that the number of deaths was down.
Yeah. Alan, you have thoughts?
Yeah, there's an interesting change in the dynamic of the play over the last act and the beginning of this. The pace has suddenly really gone mad, hasn't it? We had some of the early scenes which did seem to be rather pedestrian, and now suddenly we're up to almost full fast speed. And I can just visualize that those neighbours would be almost overlapping with each other.
Yeah.
That whole scene, I suspect, in stage production would work at an incredibly high tempo.
Yeah.
It's like,
and you sort of see this through Lovewit's eyes. One weird person after another is now going to be turning up.
Yeah. Well, also, I guess it's that thing of if you want to play it as them, as him being worried about them having plague, then he's trying to push them away, and they're trying to get closer because it's like, we have to tell you this thing now. Someone broke into your house and Jeremy was up to something, and no, he's a very honest fellow. So it's kind of you could play with that as well. Though I think you could probably cut down the number of neighbors depending on if you're doing this on stage for a community youth theater type thing, or if you're doing it for like audio maybe. Though that would be a waste, I think.
Yeah, it would be really hard to follow on audio because so much of this is physical,
Yeah.
particularly the earlier
Yes.
scene.
Meanwhile, Dapper is still locked in the toilet. So
Yeah.
just don't
Yes.
forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think wait, no, we had the Spanish Don who was surely dressed up as a Spanish Don, and Mammon was basically sent away as a sort of outcast, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I'm just recapping now because I just remembered we've all got these things. And because he mentioned religion to Doll, and Doll was offended.
Yeah. Well, Surly and Mammon are coming back in together and clearly in the middle of a conversation. And it looks as if they're exchanging accounts of what happened to them since they were, Mammon had this horrible experience and thinks that it was all his fault, that everything exploded. Meanwhile, Surly has, seen through the whole thing and is trying to tell Mammon, not probably very successfully.
Yeah, and aside from Dapper and Mammon, and I mean, Surly wasn't really a mark. He just didn't want to play along, and they didn't like him. Yeah. So, and Ananias, who is one of the pious sort of characters, who turns up later. Anyway, we should probably move on. Act 5, Scene 3.
No, sir, he was a great physician. It was no bawdy house, but a mere chancel. You knew the Lord and his sister.
Hey, good Surly.
The happy word, be rich.
Play not the tyrant.
Should be today pronounced to all your friends. And where be your andirons now, and your brass pots that should have been golden flagons and great wedges?
Oh, let me but breathe. What? They have shut their doors, methinks.
And now 'tis holiday with them.
Rogues!
And he and Surly knock.
Cousiners! Impostors! Bawds! What mean you, sir? To enter, if we can. Another man's house? Here is the owner, sir. Turn you to him and speak your business. Are you, sir, the owner?
Yes, sir.
And are these knaves within your cheaters?
What knaves? What cheaters?
Subtle and his lungs. The gentleman is distracted, sir. No lungs nor lights have been seen here these 3 weeks, sir, within these doors, upon my word.
Your word, groom arrogant.
Yes, sir. I am the housekeeper, and no, the keys have not been out of my hands.
This is a new face.
You do mistake the house, sir. What sign was it at?
You rascal. This is one of the Confederacy. Come, let's get officers and force the door.
Pray you stay, gentlemen.
No, sir, we'll come with a warrant.
Aye, and then we shall have your doors open.
Exit Mammon and Surly.
What means this?
I cannot tell, sir.
These are two of the gallants that we do think we saw.
Two of the fools. You talk as idly as they. Good faith, sir, I think the moon has crazed them all. Oh, may the angry boy come too. He'll make a noise and ne'er away till he have betrayed us all.
And Kastril has entered meanwhile, and he's knocking. What rogues, bastards, slaves, you open the door, anon. Punk, cockatrice, my sister, by this light I'll fetch the marshal to you. You are a whore to keep your castle.
Who would you speak with, sir?
The body doctor, the cousin and captain, and past my sister.
This is something sure.
Upon my trust, the doors were never opened, sir.
I've heard all their tricks told me twice over by the fat knight and lean gentleman.
Here comes another.
Enter Ananias and Tribulation. Yeah.
Ananias, too, and his pastor.
The doors are shut against us.
Come forth, you seed of sulphur, sons of fire. Your stench it is broke forth. Abomination is in the house.
I and my sister is there.
The place, it has become a cage of unclean birds.
Yes, I will fetch the scavenger and the constable. You shall do well.
We'll join to weed them out.
You will not come then, punk devise, my sister.
Call her not sister. She's a harlot, verily.
I'll raise the street.
Oh, gentlemen, a word.
Satan avoid, and hinder not our zeal.
Exit Ananias, Tribulation, and Kastril. You can kind of imagine Ananias like walking off, like sort of, yeah, walking off with the cross. Anyway.
The world's turned Bethlehem.
These are all broke loose out of St. Catherine's, where they used to keep the better sort of mad folks. All these persons we saw go in and out here.
Yes, indeed, sir.
These were the parties.
Peace, you drunkards. Sir, I wonder at it. Please you to give me leave to try the door. I'll try and the lock be changed.
Amazes me.
Good faith, sir. I believe there's no such thing. 'Tis all deceptio visus. Would I could get him away.
Master Captain, Master Doctor.
Who's that?
Our clerk within that I forgot. I know not, sir.
For God's sake, when will her grace be at leisure?
Oh, illusions, some spirit of the air. His gag is melted, and now he sets out the throat.
I'm almost stifled.
Would you were altogether.
Just in the house. List.
I believe it, sir, in the air.
Peace, you.
Mine aunt's grace does not use me well.
You fool! Peace, no more all.
Or you will else, you rogue.
Was it so? Then you converse with spirits. Come, sir. No more of your tricks, good Jeremy. The truth, the shortest way.
Dismiss this rabble, sir. What shall I do? I'm catched.
Good neighbours, I thank you all. You may depart.
The neighbours' exit having been on all this time.
Come, sir. You know that I'm an indulgent master, and therefore conceal nothing. What's your medicine to draw so many sorts of wild fowl?
Sir, you were wont to affect mirth and wit, but here's no place to talk out in the street. Give me but leave to make the best of my fortune, and only pardon me the abuse of your house. It's all I beg. I'll help you to a widow in recompense that you shall give me thanks for. Will make you 7 years younger, and a rich one. 'Tis but your putting on a Spanish cloak. I have her within. You need not fear the house. It was not visited.
But by me, who came sooner than you expected.
It is true, sir. Pray you forgive me.
Well, let's see you, widow.
And they exit. Presumably the widow is Dame Pliant, who was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who's still indoors. And
Uh-huh.
I thought she'd been rescued by Surly. Or...
Well, she's not been taken out of the house because her brother...
Yeah, and Kastril chased Surly off, and Surly came back with Mammon to confront the grifters.
This is
I think
complicated.
they went to get officers.
Yeah.
Kastril left Dame Pliant in the house on the understanding that she's going to marry a Spanish count. I mean, and Drugger thinks that if he gets a Spanish costume like Hieronymo's from the Spanish tragedy, comes back, he can marry her. So there's still 2 people expecting to marry. Well, at least she's been promised that she'll marry a Spaniard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now Lovewit has been promised her as well.
Yeah, now Face has suggested that Lovewit put on a Spanish cloak and marry her, because it doesn't matter who she is. The point is she's got money. She's a rich widow, and she's young, so that'll be nice for him. He's an old man, so it'd be lovely for her, of course, yeah.
I do like how he doesn't question it. It's like sort of everything else is problematic except the fact that he has a woman in the house that is not someone who is like just leaving a woman in the house by herself.
Well, he says, let's see your widow.
Yeah.
See how I feel about this proposition once I've seen her. Yeah.
Yeah. Alan, you had thoughts?
Well, yeah, my thought was that the theatre wardrobe was presumably overstocked with Spanish cloaks.
Well, it's presumably just one Spanish cloak that everybody's been wearing.
Passing it around.
Yeah.
Probably. I just realized we're almost in Act 5, Scene 4, and that's quite. I mean, we've made it's very quick. I mean, we had to we kept switching neighbors because neighbor reading who was reading the neighbors because it happened so quickly. It's such a pity to interrupt them, and I don't know if you really, I mean, you couldn't use them, I guess, and then just have hearsay. I don't know. I'm just trying to think what we would do in terms of using the blue pencil and stuff. But
yeah, we'll certainly cut the number of neighbors, and they could be doubled with, well, the officer, of course, too.
Yeah.
But small roles. One of them is probably going to be Dame Pliant. I mean, she's not doing anything else in that scene.
yeah, this is
Maybe
true.
even Dapper, who,
Yeah.
as long as he can get off stage in time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Drugger, who's not around in this bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on what we've read so far? Aside from it's chaos.
It's chaos.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Lovewit seems to believe that he seems to believe Face a lot of the time. I'm not sure. Like
Well, I don't
maybe
know,
like 80 or maybe 60% of the time.
Yes, well, Lovewit is the first sort of normal, intelligent person we've met. I suppose apart from Surly, maybe, and and with no obsession. I mean, even Surly has a humor, as he says, which is that he would not be gulled. I mean, he's sort of ultra suspicious. Lovewit is sort of healthily skeptical, I suppose you could say, and and his name, Lovewit. I mean, he's the sort of person that might well forgive someone like Face if he thinks that the deception is really clever, and especially if he can profit from it. I think that's the general implication.
Yeah. There was also that line. I think it was. I want to say, Surly's. Oh yeah, this is a new face. It's like it's a bad pun, but
well, it's ironic because he doesn't know that this is Face, in fact, or that it's the same guy that he's already seen as a captain.
He
and
just
as Eulenspiegel, because I mean, presumably nobody recognizes a Face as Jeremy. I mean, the neighbors know him as Jeremy, but none of these other people realize it's the same guy that they've seen as either Lungs or the captain.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing where you really do have to see these people in their different costumes to figure out who they're supposed to be when.
Yeah. And what also kind of to figure out how many of them there are, just because there are so many marks and so many. There are loads of like peripheral characters. Characters. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Act 5, Scene 4. Enter Subtle, leading in Dapper with his eyes bound as before.
Oh, you have eaten your gag.
Yes, Faith, it crumbled away in my mouth.
You have spoiled it all. You've spoiled all then.
No, I hope my Aunt Fairy will forgive me.
You're not a gracious lady, but in troth you were to blame.
The fume did overcome me, and I did do it to stay my stomach. Pray you so satisfy her grace. And her face in his uniform. Here comes the captain.
How now? Is his mouth down?
Aye, he has spoken.
Ah, pox, I heard him, and you too. He's undone then. I've been fain to say the house is haunted with spirits to keep churl back.
And hast thou done it?
Sure, for this night.
Why then, triumph and sing of Face so famous, the precious king of present wits.
Did you not hear the coil about the door?
Yes, and I dwindle with it.
Show him his aunt and let him be dispatched. I'll send her to you.
Exit Face.
Well, sir, your aunt, her grace, will give you audience presently on my suit, and the captain's word that you did not eat your gag, in the contempt of her highness.
Unbinds his eyes. Not I, in truth, sir. Enter dull like the queen of fairy.
Here she is come, down on your knees and wriggle. She has a stately presence.
Dapper kneels and shuffles towards her.
Good, yet nearer, and bid God save you.
Madam,
And your aunt?
and my most gracious aunt, God save your grace.
Nephew, we thought to have been angry with you. That sweet face of yours has turned a tide and made it flow with joy that ebbed of love. Arise and touch our velvet gown.
The skirts, and kiss him too.
Let me now stroke thy head. Much, nephew, shalt thou win, much shalt thou spend, much shalt thou give away, much shalt thou lend.
Aye, much indeed. Why do you not thank her grace?
I cannot speak for joy.
See the kind wretch your gracious kinsman right.
Give me the bird. Here is your fly in a purse about your neck, cousin. Wear it and beat it about this day se'nnight on your right wrist.
Open a vein with a pin, and let it suck but once a week. Till then, you must not look on it.
No, and kinsman, bear yourself worthy of the blood you come on.
Her grace would have you eat no more woolsack pies, nor dagger fruity.
Nor break his fast in heaven and hell.
She's with you everywhere, nor play with costermongers at mum chance. Tray chip, God make you rich, when your aunt has done it. But keep the gallantest company and the best games.
Yes, sir.
Gleek and primero, and what you get be true to us.
By this hand I will.
You may bring us £1,000 before tomorrow night, but 3,000 be stirring, and you will.
I will. I swear I will then.
Your fly will learn all games.
Have you done there?
Your grace will command him no more duties?
No, but come and see me often. I may chance to leave him 300 or 400 chests of treasure, and some 12,000 acres of fairyland, if he game well and comely with good gamesters.
There's a kind aunt. Kiss her departing parts. But you must sell your 40 mark a year now.
Aye, sir. I mean,
Or give it away, pox on it.
I'll give it to my aunt. I'll go and fetch the writings. Exit Dapper.
'Tis well. Away.
Enter Face.
We're subtle.
Here, what news?
A drugger's at the door. Go, take his suit, and bid him fetch a parson presently. Say he shall marry the widow. Thou shalt spend £100 by the service.
Exit Subtle.
Now, Queen Doll, have you packed up all?
Yes,
And how do you like the Lady Pliant?
a good, dull, innocent.
Enter Subtle.
Here's your Hieronymo's cloak and hat,
Give me them.
and the ruff too.
Yes, I'll come to you presently.
Exit Face, presumably to get changed.
Now he is going about his project, doll, I told you of, for the widow.
'Tis direct against our articles.
Well, we will fit him, wench. Thou hast gulled her of her jewels and her bracelets.
No, but I will do it.
Soon at night, my dolly, when we are shipped and all our goods aboard, eastward for Ratcliffe, we will turn our course to Brainford, westward, if thou sayest the word, and take our leaves of this overweening rascal, this peremptory face.
Content, I'm weary of him.
Thou hast cause, when the slave will run a wiving, doll, against the instrument that was drawn between us.
I'll pluck his bird as bare as I can.
Yes, tell her she must by any means address some present to the cunning man. Make him amends for wronging his art with her suspicion. Send a ring or chain of pearl. She will be tortured else extremely in her sleep, say, and have strange things come to her.
Seem to have lost Lynn temporarily.
Yes. Strange things come to her. Wilt thou?
Yes,
My fine flittermouse, my bird of the night, will tickle it at the pigeons when we have all, and may unlock the trunks. And say, this is mine and thine and thine and mine, and they kiss interface.
What now? A billing?
Yes, a little exalted in the good passage of our stock affairs.
Drugger has brought his parson. Take him in, Subtle, and send Nab back again to wash his face.
I will, and shave himself. Exit Subtle.
If you can get him.
You are hot upon it, Face, whate'er it is.
A trick that Doll shall spend £10 a month by.
Enter Subtle.
Is he gone?
The chaplain awaits you in the hall, sir.
I'll go bestow him.
Exit Face.
He'll now marry her instantly.
He cannot yet. He's not ready. Dear dull cousin of all thou canst, to deceive him is no deceit, but justice, that would break such an inextricable tie as ours was.
Let me alone to fit him.
Enter Face.
My venturers, you've packed up all? Where be the trunks? Bring forth.
Here.
Let us see them. Where's the money?
Here in this.
Mammon's £10, 8 score before, the brethren's money, this, Druggers and Dappers. What paper's that?
The jewel of the waiting maids that stole it from her lady, to know certain.
If she should have precedence of her mistress.
Yes.
What box is that?
The fishwife's rings, I think, and the alewife's sum of money. Is it not, dog?
Yes, and the whistle that the sailor's wife brought you to know, and hers with reward.
We'll wet it tomorrow, and our silver beakers and tavern cups. Where be the French petticoats and girdles and hangers?
Here in the trunk and the bolts of bone.
Is Drugger's damask there, and the tobacco?
Yes.
Give me the keys.
Why you the keys?
No matter, doll, because we shall not open them before he comes.
'Tis true. You shall not open them, indeed. Nor have them forth, you see. Not forth, doll.
Oh?
No, my smock rampant. The right is, my master knows all, has pardoned me, and he will keep them. Doctor, 'tis true, you look, for all your figures. I sent for him indeed. Wherefore, good partners, both he and she be satisfied, for here determines the indenture tripartite between Subtle, Doll, and Face. All I can do is help you over the wall at the back side, or lend you a sheet to save your velvet gown, Doll. Here will be officers presently. Bethink you of some course suddenly to escape the dock, for thither you will come else.
And a loud knocking.
Hark you, thunder.
You're a precious fiend.
Open
Open the door!
Doll, I'm sorry for thee, faith, but hearest thou? It shall go hard, but I will place thee somewhere. Thou shalt have my letter to Mistress Amo.
Hang
Or
you!
Madam Caesarean.
Box upon you, rogue. Would I had but time to beat thee.
Subtle, let's know where you set up next. I will send you a customer now and then for old acquaintance. What new course have you?
Rogue, I'll hang myself that I may walk a greater devil than thou, and haunt thee in the flock bed and the buttery. And they exit. Yes, we seem to have lost Lynn, which is quite sad.
Unfortunately, we've also lost Subtle, so
Yeah.
it's not quite so sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
I mean, the pace is just cranking up continually, isn't it?
Yeah.
The summoning spell worked.
Right.
Welcome back, Lynn.
Yeah, where did you lose me?
We lost you at strange things.
And I'm afraid your character has just left. I mean, Subtle, at any rate, has just vanished over the back wall with Doll.
Okay, so did you
We
read
carried on. Yes.
We finished the scene so we can have a unity
Okay.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
so there's been a double cross here. to put it
Well,
mildly.
yeah.
A double cross.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're meant to believe that Face really did send for Lovewit. I don't think so. It looks to me as if he didn't have a clue, but he's now making that up. But he's certainly
Because
telling.
she has the slides that say things like, "Oh, I'm in trouble." Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, he does have a tendency to make stuff up as he goes along. So it's kind of like, well, I can't help you, but the officers are here to arrest you, so you'd probably
Yeah.
get out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
So we're at the beginning of Act 5, Scene 5. Yeah.
okay. Lovewit and Mammon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, Dull and Subtle were plotting to steal stuff off, to basically frame Face and Dame Pliant.
They were planning to rob Dame Pliant of everything they could, or get her to even send a present to the doctor to apologize for having suspected him. I mean, just
I made it that far.
yeah.
And then basically, as soon as they were going to continue with their double cross, they just kind of, the officers came in. Well,
Well,
came
well,
in,
Face
were
tells them,
introduced.
yeah. Face tells them that he and Lovewit are now reconciled and that they better get out before they're arrested. Yeah. And they do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think I don't believe for a second that he told Lovewit everything. Like, my
No,
master knows all.
No, well, he does know all now. He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't know exactly that they were cheating him. I mean, it's interesting. Lovewit says earlier on that all he left was the hangings and the carpets. I mean, he seems to have gone off with a lot of his own utensils and stuff. So they presumably, I suppose that's meant to explain why they can transform the house into something that probably looks quite different. You know, hanging all sorts of astrological symbols around, and generally trying to make it look like a Halloween party.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's where you'd probably get all the stuff for the set, is from the Halloween section in the stores.
Yeah. I was wondering about the line, "Give me the bird." Is that like sort of does that mean anything, or is it just like
The bird
language?
is Dame Pliant.
Well, the bird is the fly, isn't it? I mean, the thing. I mean, that's what they hand Dapper and say, this is the thing, you let it suck your blood. I mean, it's real, the sort of witchcraft stuff. Witches are supposed to let the devil suck their blood. So this is some kind of spirit. He calls it a bird, but I take it it's the same thing as the fly that he mentions. I don't know if that means they've actually got something. I mean, maybe they've actually got a bird in there, probably a dead one by this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to work that one out, because I think it's Dull going, "Give me the bird," and then like sort of handing it over to Dapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the sort of dagger frumpity stuff was kind of frumpity. I can't remember what the line
Oh,
was.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't quite know what that was. Alan?
Gambling games that we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of topical references, but I think there's also elements in there which are reminiscent to me of boys' company plays, where there are double entendre which could be milked. I mean, particularly when kiss her, the bit you see when she departs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like how they kind of basically somehow the queen of fairies becomes his fairy godmother, basically.
Yeah.
At least in his head.
Yeah.
Your fly will learn you all games. And
Yeah.
he's so happy about this that he just kisses the
Yeah.
floor, kisses her, kisses. I'm assuming he does. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think he's about the one person that leaves happy after all this. Though it
Yeah.
won't be for long. Obviously, the first bit of gambling he does, he'll discover that this doesn't work. But
Yeah.
I mean, he's planning to quit his job and live entirely on the proceeds of gambling.
Yeah, to become a professional gambler.
Yeah.
That can't possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, my question, Wasn't there also, I don't know if this is still a colloquialism back then or also nowadays, but shaving someone, isn't that like also a sort of double entendre on like stealing stuff and like making,
Yeah.
framing them basically?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I will and shave himself is basically like get rid of whatever
She-
Drugger has.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't got the dictionary of historical slang to hand, but that one is certainly part of thieves' cant
yeah.
in the 19th century. How far it existed back in the 17th, I'm not sure.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No, I think it does mean it nearly always has that kind of double meaning, even when they're talking about shaving. I think in the previous scene.
Yeah, you will not cut my throat, just trim me a little.
Yeah, because I think Subtle thinks that I'll be cheating you. I mean, each of them thinks he's going to cheat the other, because after all, Subtle and Doll are planning to, grab all the loot and leave Face behind and go off somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they discover that he's going to hang on to all the loot and won't let it out of the house.
Yeah. I'm just trying to also work out the bit about my letter to Mistress Ammo or Madam Caesarian. Madam Caesarian sounds like something about like pregnancy stuff, and then yeah.
Well, I think these are two women that run brothels, and he's just saying, you obviously are going to be a professional prostitute and go back again to your job, and I'll give you some references. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Alan?
Yeah, I think those are references to other scams which they've been perpetrating, which we haven't actually seen on stage. Which means that if Jonson had done his usual mega edit, there would have been at least another 10 scenes with all these other scams.
Yeah.
But for once, brevity won out over Jonson's normal proclivities.
True. Well, we should probably move on and see what happens in the I think it's the final scene, if I'm not mistaken, because there's quite a bit to go. There's at least 7 pages.
So, are we at like Lovewit, Mammon, First Officer? Is that where we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, how are we going to do this? We haven't planned this far, by the way, dear delightful viewers, because there are so many characters and there are only 4 of us. So Lovewit is Alan. Mammon can be okay, we can have the same casting as before, but
we can give some more roles to both Alan and Lynn, since they've just lost the 2 major ones.
Yeah. I mean,
Shirley does show up, so I've got a line there.
Yeah, and then Mammon and Shirley have a lot of dialogue, and then Kastril turns up with 1 line, and well, I can read the First Officer just like to take him off your hands. And stuff. Okay. Well, we'll make it up as we go along, as kind of like Face does, except I think he's a bit more organized. Maybe not. Act 5, Scene 5. An outer room presumably in the same house / building. Enter Lovewit in the Spanish dress with the parson. Loud knocking at the door.
What do you mean, my masters?
Open your door! Cheaters! Bawds! Conjurers!
Or we will break it open.
What warrant have you?
Warrant enough, sir. Doubt not if you'll not open it.
Is there an officer there?
Yes, 2 or 3 for failing.
Have the patience and I will open it straight.
Enter Face as butler.
Sir, have you done? Is it a marriage? Perfect?
Yes, my brain.
Off with your ruff and cloak, then. Be yourself, sir.
Down with the door!
Sliding it open.
Hold! Oh, gentlemen, what means this violence?
Mammon, Surly, Kastril, Ananias, Tribulation, and officers rushing. So basically everyone's on stage.
Where is this collier?
And my captain Face.
These day owls.
That are birding in men's purses.
Madam Suppository.
Doxy, my sister.
Locusts of the foul pit.
Profane as Bell and the dragon.
worse than the grasshoppers or the lice of Egypt.
Good gentlemen, hear me. Are you officers and cannot stay this violence?
Keep the peace.
Gentlemen, what is the matter? Whom do you seek?
The chemical cousin,er,
And the Captain Pander.
The nun, my sister.
Madam Rabbi.
Scorpions and caterpillars.
Hear at once, I pray you.
One after another, gentlemen, I charge you by virtue of my staff.
They are the vessels of pride, of lust, and the card.
Good seal, lie still a little while.
Peace, Deacon Ananias.
The house is mine here, and the doors are open. If there be any such persons as you seek for, use your authority. Search on God's name. I am but newly come to town, and finding this tumult about my door, to tell you true, somewhat amazed me, till my man here, fearing my more displeasure, told me he had done somewhat to an insolent part, let out my house, belike presuming on my known aversion, any air of the town, while there was sickness, to a doctor and a captain, who, what they are, or where they be, he knows not.
Are they gone?
You may go in and search, sir.
Mammon, Ananias, and Tribulation go in.
Here I find the empty walls worse than I left them, smoked, a few cracked pots and glasses and a furnace, the ceiling filled with posies of the candle, a madam with a dildo writ on the walls. Only one gentlewoman I met here, and that is within, that said she was a widow.
Aye, that's my sister. I'll go thump her. Where is she? Kastril goes in.
And should have married a Spanish count, but he, when he came to it, neglected her so grossly that I, a widower, am gone through with her.
How have I lost her then?
Were you the Don, sir? Good faith now, she doth blame you extremely, and says you swore and told her that you had taken the pains to dye your beard and umber your face, borrowed a suit and ruff, all for her love, and then did nothing. What an oversight and want of putting forward, sir, was this. Well, fair and old Abu's here yet, could prime his powder and give fire and hit, all in a twinkling.
The whole nest are fled.
What sort of birds were they?
A kind of chuffs or thievish daws, sir, that have picked my purse of 80 pounds within these 5 weeks, besides my first materials, and my goods that lie in the cellar, which I'm glad they have left. I may have home yet.
Think you so, sir?
Aye,
By order of law, sir, but not otherwise.
not mine own stuff.
Sir, I can take no knowledge that they are yours, but by public means. You can bring certificate that you were gulled of them, or any formal writ out of a court that you did cousin yourself. I will not hold them.
I'd rather lose them.
That you shall not, sir. By me, in troth, upon these terms, they are yours. What? Should they have been, sir, turned into gold? All?
No, I cannot tell. It may be that they should. What then?
A great loss in hope have you sustained.
Not I. The Commonwealth has. Aye, he would have built the city new, and made a ditch about it of silver, should have run with cream from Hogsden, that every Sunday in Moorfields, the yunkers and tits and tomboys should have fed on, gratis. I will go mount a turnip cart and preach the end of the world within these 2 months. Surly, what, in a dream?
Must I needs cheat myself with that same foolish vice of honesty? Come, let's go hearken out the rogues. That face I'll mark for mine if e'er I meet him.
If I can hear of him, sir, I'll bring you word unto your lodging. For in truth, they were strangers to me. I thought them as honest as myself, sir.
And exits Mammon and Surly. Enter Ananias and Tribulation. 'Tis well, the saints shall not lose all yet. Go and get some carts.
For what, my zealous friends?
Bear away the portion of the righteous out of the den of thieves.
What is that portion?
The goods, sometimes the orphans, that the brethren bought with their silver pence.
What, those in the cellar the knights of Mammon claims?
I do defy the wicked Mammon, so do all the brethren, thou profane man. I ask thee, with what conscience thou canst advance that idol against us that have the seal? Were not the shillings numbered that made the pounds? Were not the pounds told out upon the 2nd day of the 4th week in the 8th month, upon the table dormant, the year of the last patience of the saints, 610?
I'm earnest, vehement botcher, and deacon also. I cannot dispute with you, but if you get not away the sooner, I shall confute you with a cudgel.
Oh,
Be patient, Ananias.
I am strong and will stand up well girt against an host that threaten God in exile.
I shall send you to Amsterdam, to your cellar.
I will pray there against thy house. May dogs defile the walls, and wasps and hornets breed beneath thy roof, this seat of falsehood and this cave of cousinage.
Exit Ananias and Tribulation. Enter Drugger. Lynn, can you read Drugger? Though I think it's only one line.
Okay.
Another too?
No, sir, I am no brother.
Away you, Harry Nicholas. Do you talk?
Exit Drugger.
No, this was Abel Drugger. Good sir, go and satisfy him. Tell him all is done. He stayed too long a washing of his face. The doctor, he shall hear of him at Westchester, and of the captain tell him at Yarmouth or some good port town else, lying for a wind.
Exit the parson.
If you can get off the angry child now, sir.
Enter Kastril, who hopefully can be read by Lynn, please.
Sure.
Dragging in his sister, Dame Pliant.
Come on, you have matched most sweetly, have you not? Did I not say I would have you tupped by a dubbed boy to make you a lady ton? Slight you are a mammet. Oh, I could touse you now. Death, mun you marry with a pox?
Like boy, sound as you. I'm a forehand with you.
Anon.
Come, will you quarrel? I will fees you, sirrah. Why do you not buckle to your tools?
Odds light, this is a fine boy as e'er I saw.
What, do you change your copy now? Proceed. Here stands my dove. Stoop at her, if you dare.
Slight, I must love him, I cannot choose him, faith, and I shall be hanged for it. Sister, I protest, I honor thee for this match.
Oh, do you, sir?
Yes, and thou canst take tobacco and drink, old boy. I'll give her £500 more to her marriage than her own state.
Fill a pipe full, Jeremy.
Yes, but go in and take it, sir.
We will. I will be ruled by thee in anything, Jeremy.
Slight, thou art not hide-bound, thou art a Jovi boy. Come, let us in, I pray thee, and take our whips.
Whip in with your sister, brother boy.
Exit Kastril and his sister.
That master that had received such happiness by a servant in such a widow, and with so much wealth, were very ungrateful if he would not be a little indulgent to that servant's wit, and help his fortune, though with some small strain of his own candour.
Advancing.
Therefore, gentlemen, and kind spectators, if I have outstripped an old man's gravity or strict canon, think what a young wife and a good brain may do. Stretch age's truth sometimes, and crack it too. Speak for thyself, knave.
So I will, sir.
And advancing to the front of the stage.
Gentlemen, my part a little fell in this last scene, yet 'twas decorum. And though I am clean got off from subtle, surly Mammon, dull, hot Ananias, Dapper, Drugger, all with whom I traded, yet I put myself on you that are my country, And this pelf, which I have got, if you do quit me, rests to feast you often and invite new guests.
And they exit. Thus endeth the play. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it like he manages to marry off Lovewit and Dame Pliant, who unfortunately doesn't say much. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I find this ending a little anticlimactic. That the master of the house shows up and Face basically says, yeah, I let these two people who are professional grifters come in, and we were conning all these people, but you got a cellar full of metal goods that they're not, worth their weight in gold, but they can be pawned. And this wealthy young widow, who is evidently also attractive, Surly says, you're a handsome woman, too bad you're not smart too. That she'll do anything. She has basically no will of her own, and you can get her to marry you. So and Lovewit's like, all right, no harm, no foul. I'm gonna keep this stuff. I'm gonna marry the widow. I gain from this materially without actually having committed any of these cons myself, so you're forgiven.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it seems to be the kind of crowning irony of the thing. I mean, there's been a kind of frame around the whole play from the beginning. The master of the house is absent while the plague is on, and he will come back sometime, and he comes back sooner than they expect. And you kind of think, I mean, biblically speaking, there's generally this idea that the master is sort of like God, and he will reward and punish whatever has been going on in his absence. And then, in fact, the godlike figure arrives and turns out basically to be as corrupt as anybody else. And which is, I mean, it's not very satisfactory morally, but it's quite satisfying in sort of aesthetic terms.
Yeah. Alan.
I must admit, I found it quite interesting that in the last page of it, where Lovewit and Face break the fourth wall. And those are very definitely speeches to the audience, aren't
Absolutely.
They? Oh, yeah. It turns into the epilogue, yeah.
I mean, which in many plays would be styled as an epilogue, but in some ways, the fact that it isn't, they stayed in character, does work quite nicely. I mean, I suspect by this point, everybody is so breathless with trying to work out what went on there.
Yeah.
That it's okay, fine. Let's just wrap it up, and we'll all go to the bar and argue about it for hours afterwards.
Yeah, well, there are other plays of Jonson's where the characters stay in character at the point of the epilogue. I mean, it happens in Volpone and also in the Epicene, The Silent Woman.
Yeah.
Neither of which I think we've done in this group.
Yeah.
Volpone, there's a first look of Volpone on the...
Is there?
Somewhere.
The trouble is we've done so much material.
Yeah.
I can't keep my head around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like how Lovewit sort of indulges, but basically invites Kastril to go smoke and says, yeah, whiff in with your sister, brother, boy. And then as soon as he leaves, it's like, sort of epilogue.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what makes Kastril change his mind so abruptly. I get the feeling that he's basically all bluster and no balls. So when Lovewit actually confronts him and says, yeah, you want to come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, and Kastril's like, oh, you're a tough guy. Oh yeah, you'll make a great brother-in-law. Love you.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, Kastril's obsession is with quarreling, and it turns out that Lovewit is quite happy to quarrel and probably does the same sort of thing that Kastril's expecting. And, he thinks, oh, this is a guy after my own heart.
Yeah. Alan.
Yeah, I think again we've got the thing which is given a clue by some of the speech construction for Kastril of the country bumpkin coming up against the sophisticated London type.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like many of Jonson's plays, and like many plays we've done that are effectively very London centric.
Yeah.
You know, oh look, there's a country chap. Well, we've got to take the mick out of him, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, he's pretty awful anyway. In fact, in some ways, I think he's the nastiest one in the play, just the way he treats his sister at any rate. You know, he's only just become 1 and 20, we're told. And so he's inherited. He's got the money. He thinks of himself as the head of the family, and he pushes his sister around, and he's got definite ideas about who she ought to marry, and really just treats her like a non-entity.
Yeah.
So she's doing relatively well out of this. I mean, she seems to be marrying, you know, a fairly good-humored sort of person at any rate, who is sane, unlike most of the other people in the play.
I do like Ananias's like parting sort of small leaving speech, where it's like, instead of going a curse upon your house or whatever he could have said, he kind of goes, "May dogs defile thy walls." It's just very specific. And wasps and hornets breed beneath thy roof, this seat of falsehood and this cave of cozenage. It's just, it's a very good little speech.
Yeah.
I think he took it badly. Just maybe.
Yeah.
I think we can start segueing into thoughts about the play overall, like, because I think done at speed, it would make sense. And well, we wouldn't have time to think about it as well. So yeah, I don't know, what parts would we cut, what parts would we not cut. I don't know, I feel like the best actor was Act 4. So there's, I'm not sure where cuts would happen as such. It seems to be one of those very tight plays, where you'd have to just trim rather than shave or cut. Okay, that's yeah, I don't know, Alan.
Yeah, I I think this is one which would need salami cuts rather than massive blue pencil jobs.
Machete.
It is just a matter of trimming down one or two of the speech, particularly in the first 2 acts with the introductions of all of the people, some of which does get very repetitious and wordy. The second half, from middle of Act 3 onwards, just seems to go at such a frenetic pace that any discontinuities, people would, you know, you haven't got time to work out, hold on a minute, that doesn't make sense. But if you're on to the next catastrophe, the next vicar falling out of the wardrobe without his trousers or whatever, you know, and played as full farce.
Yeah. I do like how Lovewit sort of decides, like with Ananias especially, he's kind of like, I can't argue with you about religion, but if you don't shut up and don't leave, I will hit you. Lynn, any thoughts? You seem to have thoughts about this, and you're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I have read this before, although I've never seen it in production, and I would like to. I would like to see how this works on stage. Yeah, I do have sort of mixed feelings about it. Act 4 is really technically dazzling, and the play overall is a technical marvel. But like I said, I find the ending a little anticlimactic and a little unsatisfying. The fact that face and doll and subtle are all sort of ethically equivalent, but doll and subtle get away with basically their freedom, and that's about it. I don't think they had time to really carry much of the ill-gotten gains with them. Face comes up smelling like a rose, even though he's really a terrible person. So I find it morally really troubling that it ends this way. And again, the way the play treats women, I also find kind of problematic. So I don't know. I would want to see a production before I would like take out my dramaturg's scalpel and try to shape it. Because I kind of still need to be persuaded that that not so much artistically, but morally, it's worth doing.
Well, it does have a performance history as far as I mean, like
Oh, yeah.
modern performance
Oh,
history
yeah.
as far as I know. So,
Yeah.
Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen it several times. I think 3 or 4 times, and quite recently. You know, there was this small cost, somewhat cut production. In fact, it was done in 2 hours without an interval that I saw in Oxford, and I think it was just done also for a few days in London. And I've seen several others, all of which were really pretty successful. I mean, I have read it's Simon Callow's book, is it How to Be an Actor or something like that, where he says that he played Face in a production which he absolutely hated, and where he kept wanting to come down to the footlights and say, "Does anybody understand what I'm saying? Because I don't." And in fact, I did talk yesterday to somebody who said that they'd seen a production of the Alchemist and hadn't understood a word of it. So it clearly does depend on how the actors do it and whether they know what they're saying particularly.
Yeah.
But most productions I've seen, I could get it. Now, in fact, in this recent one, there was one place where I think they were starting to explain things, and finally somebody just went over and started talking to a member of the audience and said, "See, what we're actually doing is selling this." So, it was quite useful to have it sort of modernized and spelt out, and they were playing around a bit with that idea. But I think the point about how you feel about it morally, and how you feel, I think a lot of it has to do with how you end up, whether you end up liking any of these characters. And that really is something it's very hard to tell on the page. I mean, one of the things about the stage history of the play is that there's a quite long tradition of everybody loving Abel Drugger, and it becoming almost a leading role. I mean, for example, Alec Guinness played it in, I think, the 1940s, and everybody adored him. Colley Cibber, who was a great actor of Fops and Villains, played it. David Garrick played it, and everybody just loved it. There's a scene where he kind of comes in, I think, with the damask when nobody else is on stage. And this is all added, obviously. He starts looking around and picking up some of the stuff. And I think he accidentally breaks one of the glass things and is horrified. And anyway, everybody adored this guy, who in fact is pretty harmless, apart from wanting to marry Dame Pliant. And that's not such a bad ambition, provided he can get her to like him, which he doesn't seem to be thinking about. But, and even the treatment of Subtle, Face, and Doll. I mean, Doll's, their sheer ability, this is one of the things that you don't really get in a reading like this, but their sheer ability to go from one persona to another and make up stuff on the spot. And, you do end up sort of admiring that. I think it's quite different from the way you feel about it in Cold Blood.
Yeah, Alan.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm quite surprised by that, because Drugger probably gets less stage time than many of the other characters.
Yeah.
And for that to become a plum role for actors the stature that you've just referred to, Lois, is weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
I could understand somebody wanting to be either Face or Subtle, or to a certain extent, probably quite a bit, you could mine out a Doll as a character.
Yeah.
Drugger sort of seems to be second or third division, really.
Yeah. Well, I know it's odd, but I think there is a long tradition of actors, making more of the part than is in the text. And it's interesting to find it starting as early as the 18th century, because one has this idea that the notion of subtext and, adding stuff to your role is much later. But in fact, apparently it started with Colley Cibber. They say, anyway, he was playing the part and accidentally dropped something and then covered it up. Say, "Oh God, oh how terrible," and made it quite funny. So it appears that Garrick sort of copied that idea from him. It's you could probably do the same with other roles if you really put your mind to it. I think actors tend to want to be liked for one thing, and so they will make their characters more agreeable. I think when I saw a production in Pitlochry in Scotland, and I still remember the guy playing Ananias, whom I really sort of ended up liking. I mean, I kept wanting to see more of him, and considering that Jonson's treatment of Puritans is humorless creeps. It's amazing, but this clearly was the actor, but again, projecting so much into the part that it just made it something different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kastril, for example, he just wants to learn how to quarrel, and he strikes me as one of those like the cartoon characters who always end up on the other end of like someone holding them back and like sort of swiping at thin air or something. And like, I mean, he's described as an angry child, so it's kind of like, just based on that, you kind of have to give him some space, I think. But still, it's kind of he switches so quickly. They all do, though. I mean, okay, Face is obviously he's on stage the longest, I think. And I don't think that, I mean, I wouldn't say that Lovewit is particularly likable. He kind of, like, he's, aside from, okay, maybe he like gives sort of, he marries Dame Pliant quite happily. And he decides to keep everything in that has been. He doesn't decide to give it back, which we would expect in a modern play. So it's kind of.
But he's fairly clever about it. I mean, he tells Sir Epicure Mammon, just come and do a written affidavit of how you've been made an absolute fool of by these people, and we'll give you your money back. And Epicure is obviously totally ashamed now of what an idiot he's been, and it doesn't, would rather die, would rather lose the stuff, as he says, than reveal just how stupid he's been. I mean, he's at least intelligent enough, as Surly has said earlier, he can be wise at other times, that he realizes that, the way one does after having been conned. If any of you have ever been conned by someone on the telephone or something, you do feel appallingly ashamed afterwards. I think a lot of this could be played, with more psychological realism, in fact, along with the farce. But also, if you picture Lovewit being played by somebody like, say, Hugh Bonneville, who played Lord, Grantham, I assuming you all saw Downton Abbey, no?
I was going to, but then I figured that my life's too short.
I know. Oh, well, I'm trying to think who else I could mention that, likable elderly actor that everybody adores. Anyway,
Interesting. But I get your point about Drugger, because he kind of turns up and like Lovewit basically beats him off, which is quite sad. I mean, he, considering his ambition was basically to get some money for his shop. If I remember correctly. And also marry Dame Pliant. And also, obviously, Dame Pliant's ambition is to marry well, I'm guessing. I don't know if she has any ambition specifically, but...
she wants to know her fortune.
She wants to know who. She doesn't even have a, like, oh, I hope it's someone young and handsome. She's like, has no... will of her own,
No, it's kind of pathetic. I mean, I think I see a production somewhere where they did a bit of rewriting and tried to make it look as if she was actually taking things into her own hands. I think I have seen that somewhere. I mean, it kind of annoys me because people are always trying to make women feel happier by suddenly giving all these characters agency, which they don't have. But I think there was something like that, though I can't remember what play. This must have been a production of The Alchemist. Where did I see this one? Anyway, because I'm pretty sure that somehow or other...
seen so much stuff and read so much stuff. I don't know how you keep it straight at all.
Same.
But I don't think I could have made this one up. So it's odd. Some idea of trying to, do something with the part. Because, I mean, it's an awful part to hand some poor woman to play. I can see why they just had a doll doing it in this last production.
And I do like how Lovewit basically tells Surly that you were an idiot for not marrying her before. Like you did all the steps. You told her that you dyed your beard, you you got all dressed up and stuff, but you just didn't do the basic thing of asking her to marry you and actually doing the thing.
Well, no, that wasn't the
forcing
basic
her.
thing. The basic
Yeah.
thing was what Lovewit has just done off stage, which was consummate the marriage. I mean,
Yeah,
when
that too.
when Face asks him, "Is it have you done it?" That's what it includes. So there's been a very very short sort of sex relationship off stage.
That was quick, very quick.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to see how, if Dame Pliant comes on looking radiant, and,
Yeah.
you
That
know,
was
give it,
fun.
yeah, wow, this is what sex is. Hey, and for
Yeah.
that matter, Lovewit, I mean, the audiences always want everybody to get married, and they always think that's a happy ending. So, I mean, that could also make a difference to the end.
Yeah, to quote Alan, who I think he said it several times, like marriage is an institution. No one wants to live in that.
Yeah.
But it requires commitment, and some people don't want to be committed to an institution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on these scenes that we've read? Aside from like it goes really really quickly. Like I couldn't find a good place to stop between scenes because they
Yeah.
run into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Or shall we close the session?
I mean, Jonson had a whole theory of comedy, as a lot of people did, and that it's meant to do what this play does. I mean, it's a perfect example in a way that you introduce this complication and then another and then another, and then you start getting them colliding with and confusing with each other, and then there's a bit of the denouement, which means the unknotting. You've got a huge knot, and now you carefully and laboriously untie the whole thing, and that's the really tricky bit. I mean, it's why the endings of so many plays are disappointing, because the knot is actually tied so tight that they can't unknot it, or somebody tries to cut it, or anyway, it just doesn't work. You don't believe it.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
is true.
it's more, the Gordian knot. We're just gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think. Ferdinand and Isabella, their motto, which I remember seeing on roof beams in Spain, it's something like, is it Tamen? It's as good anyway. And what it means is it's just as good to cut it as to untie it. In other words, brute force is just fine.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But actually, we've had, if anybody remembers Every Man in His Humor, that's really sort of what happens in the last scene. You get the justice figure, Justice Clement, whose name sort of tells you that he's sensible and merciful. And then he does, we actually have a law court, really, and he unties the whole thing, and everybody ends up reasonably happy. And I think that's what you're led to expect here, that Lovewit will fulfill that function. And of course, he doesn't.
Yeah, true. I think like Lynn, I'd have to see like a production of this, not because of the more realistic stuff, but just because I'm curious how it works. Like, how do you get all these actors? And the energy has to be so high.
Like it's like the performances in this are really demanding. I mean, subtle more in the beginning and Face more in the second half. But sustaining that level of energy. Wow, that's
yeah. Maybe
by the way, Lois does in fact know everything.
This is true.
Because I just Googled Ferdinand and Isabella motto, and tanto monte tanto portar como desatar. It's one and the same, cutting or untying. Yes. So that was in fact their motto.
Yeah. You thought I made it up, did you?
No, I knew that you I just wanted to give you the exact wording. I was like, oh yeah, because Lois knows everything. But now let's look at the exact wording, and yep, it was Ferdinand and Isabella, and it was one of their mottos. Cut it, untie it, doesn't matter. Basically.
Speaking of cutting and untying and all that stuff, I was just thinking that because I know that Lynn loves like costume stuff. And like design, and I'm just thinking that like this play would need so many costumes and so much, like someone backstage to help people get into their costume, because we talked about that last time where Face is changing, like
the captain and lungs, and then Jeremy's is his butler's outfit's different, and Doll has like a basic costume, and she's a lady, and she's the queen of the fairies, so she's got at least 3. And
And
then
Subtle is a
Subtle
doctor.
probably has like at least things he throws over a basic costume, his doctor's gown and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah, I think he's both a scientist and a holy man. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus whatever he's like at the beginning. I mean, because they're really pretty low life characters. I mean, from the things they say about each other in the first scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the others don't change anything, but they kind of, well, aside from maybe Dapper, who turns up like stuff like crumbs or something around his mouth. But yeah.
Well, as Surly does. Surly has the Spanish.
Yeah.
And Surly has to have some reasonably convincing Spanish as well.
Yes, true. So you need quite a lot for this play. I mean, I say quite a lot. I mean, in terms of a budget and stuff. Although it might be funnier if they don't actually change and they just put on the moustache.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I shall thank all our wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Because, they are worse than the grasshoppers or the lice of Egypt.